All boils down to this, folks. We're down to the last four. That's right. Only 4 teams remain to compete for the last spot over in next season's championship. Who's going to get the upper hand in the first legs of the playoffs? We're going to get into it. All of it next. That's right, folks, back once again on the production video. Today we're taking a look at the EFL League 1 playoffs. That's right, goodness gracious me. 4 teams remain, of course, compete for that final championship spot for next season, who, of course, will be going to Coventry, who, of course, will be going to Middlesbrough. These big clubs are awaiting, of course, one of these 4 remaining League 1 clubs. The rest, unfortunately, will be back into League 1 next season. Of course, we'll be there to look forward to that whenever that comes. But anyway, right here, right now, we're looking forward to the semi-finals. We'll get into it in a second. Of course, big shout out to my VIPs. They are the Patreons. You know who you are. Again, if you're new, smash your subscribe. But let's turn the clock back to, of course, last week. And, of course, getting a bang up to date with, of course, the results from last time. All right then, folks, let's, of course, turn the clock back to those last games and, of course, my predictions as well. On the screen, you'll see my picks in white and then, of course, the actual scoreline in black. So here we go then. Recapping Stevenage's match against Cheltenham. Of course, Stevenage forever in the playoffs this season, but tumbled out towards the back end. Not only losing manager Steve Evans, who will be back here next season in League 1 with Rotherham, but Stevenage, of course, tumbling out of the playoffs as well. Tumbling out of the division will be Cheltenham, of course, I believe. They, of course, couldn't get over the line. 2-1 loss for them over Stevenage. I went with a 0-0 draw. Exeter, team to maybe look out for next season with a 13th place finish. I went with a 2-1 win for them. However, it was a win for Oxford, of course, who did secure a top 4 playoff spot. Of course, Barnsley also there, even though their form books suggest they shouldn't be, with a 1-1 draw against Northampton Town. 0-0 in my eyes. Meanwhile, Cambridge will be back for another day, finishing in 18th spot. But Port Vale going down with Darren Moore. Surprise, surprise. I went with the 2-1 win for Cambridge. 0-0 it was. Port Vale are down. Team to also, a couple of teams to look out for next season. Reading and Blackpool, 3-2 winners it was for Reading over the Majewski. I went with an away win. Blackpool, of course, just slipped out of the playoffs. I think maybe one of the most unlucky ones there. 8th spot, 3 points adrift. They will be back next season. Derby, though, will not be. 2-0 winners over Carlisle, promoted as second place. I got them on spot on the nose. Shrewsbury, of course, 3-1 loss to Leyton Orient. They also could be a team to keep an eye on, depending on if they keep their coach, Richie Wellens. I went with a home win. Got that one wrong. Wigan, again, also a team I think that could also do some damage next season. 2-0 winners over Bristol Rovers. 1-0 winners in my eyes. Fleetwood, though, will not be with us. They will be in League 2. 3-0 win over Burton, of course, who did survive by just a couple of points. So Burton will be back. But, of course, a season of woe, you would imagine, for them next season. Meanwhile, Peterborough and Bolton gave us a thriller. 3-3 in the end. What also could be a future playoff final. That's right. 2-0 winners I had for Peterborough. But no, Bolton got themselves a point, but unfortunately not enough to get in the second spot. Lincoln, they also lost at home at Central Bank to Portsmouth as the champions went up with a bit of a flair. Of course, 3-1 win for me for Lincoln. Of course, that not good enough to get anywhere near the playoffs. And then wrapping up Charlton again. Nathan Jones done a remarkable job grinding out some results. 1-0 loss, though, to Wickham. I went with a 1-1 draw on that one as well. Of course, that's the situation there. What about the situation in the table? Well, the table looks like this. Will end like this, with Portsmouth up there, 97 points, 5 points clear over Derby, who, of course, got 5 points better off than Bolton, who will be there in the playoffs with Peterborough, Oxford and Barnsley going down. We say goodbye to Carlisle, Port Vale and Fleetwood, and Cheltenham join them all in League 2 next season now. Yo. Of course, that's that. Of course, this is where I usually would say, hey, let's take a look at the leaderboard in the prediction league, but we are not going there. We are going to bring that on the playoff final video and reveal who is our champion. There's still 4 points, 5 points on offer, plus whatever was hauled last week. So you just don't know. It might be around about 20 points up for grabs. So you might have just snatched it or surprised everybody with your picks. But we'll get to those, of course, in a couple of videos' time. But let's go back to this and now look forward to playoffs. And we're talking about the first legs. We're going to go to Oakwell first. Barnsley against Bolton coming at you tomorrow. That's right. No rest for the wicked. It is, of course, a 7:30 kick. kickoff. Barnsley with Martin Devaney currently as manager. They are deliberating and I don't know what they're doing in the managerial department for Barnsley. So Devaney, as it stands, looks like he's going to be taking charge of this semi-final first leg up against the Bolton with Ian Evatt as your manager there. Played each other 28 times since 1993. Got 5 wins for Barnsley, 9 wins for Bolton, 14 draws, of course. Barnsley 3-0 win the biggest, scored 40 goals in those 28 games, 1.43 goals a game on average. Bolton, though, 3-0 win the biggest, scored 46 goals in 28 matches, 1.64 goals a game. Bolton unbeaten in the last 6 games. In fact, they haven't lost in the last 7. They're 75% form for them right now. However, just 1 win in the last 4. Meanwhile, Bolton did finish third, 87 points for the season, up against the Barnsley side, who are winless in the last 6 matches. 17% form for them right now, 6th in the table, 76 points for the season. They are lucky to just be here in this conversation. Now, these two sides did meet twice in this regular season, and both of those ended up as draws. Of course, back in Bolton, of course, in February, it was a 1-1 draw, but back at Barnsley, this earlier in March, it was a 2-2 draw at Oakwell. Of course, turn the clock back just 1 year, and these two sides did meet each other in the playoffs, with Barnsley coming out over the double-legged affair and made it to the final, my understanding. Of course, coming into this with Barnsley rolling into this on the back of a 1-1 draw against Northampton Town. Bolton, of course, on the back of that 3-3 draw against Peterborough. The odds for this game, and this game alone, 11-5 is your Barnsley, 5-4 is your Bolton, 12-5 is the draw. If we have a look at, of course, the odds for promotion, Bolton are favoured here to go the distance, 13-8, and Barnsley are mass underdogs at 9-2 on this one. I'm going to go with a 2-0 away win here. I just don't know what they're doing with their managerial situation, Barnsley. Of course, they could have and should have and probably best have had hired their manager, or they're going to ride their luck with this Devaney caretaker and see how far he can get. There was supposed to be an Austrian guy coming in there, but maybe a work permit kind of snagged that up a little bit. So I just don't know what's going on with Barnsley at the moment, and I think that's going to roll into this because the game is tomorrow. I just think they're coming into this unprepared for the task in hand, and the form is just woeful. So Bolton really should take full advantage of this one. Into the second game, though, we go. And it's a bit of a classic affair here. Oxford United against Peterborough coming at you at the Kazan. Now, these two sides have played each other 20 times since 1993. 8 wins for Oxford, 8 wins for Peterborough, 4 draws. It couldn't be tighter. Oxford with Des Buckingham as your manager there formerly, or taking over the reins from John Moss Senior, who did, of course, get Portsmouth promoted. Peterborough, though, managed by Darren Ferguson, who's been here, seen it done. He got the T-shirt, got the souvenirs. He knows what it is for Peterborough. Old and tried and trusted is Peterborough. But 20 times again, the biggest win for Oxford was a 5-0 win, scoring 24 goals in those 20 games. Peterborough, though, their biggest win, just a 4-0 win, scoring 25 goals in those 20 games, 1.25 goals a game. Peterborough rocking a 58% form heading into this. Back-to-back games, though, without a win. They did finish 4th with 84 points. It's a good, what we look at, 7 points clearance of Oxford, who did finish 5th. But they come into this on 75% form, probably the best form at the bunch, I think, heading into this one. They did finish 5th with 77 points for the season. Now, again, these two sides, just like everybody else, come into this pretty good recent form, of course. Last time they played each other at the Kazan, it was a 5-0 win for Oxford. That's just back, what are we looking at? Just a couple of weeks ago, back in the 13th of April, Oxford rocking that, of course. But when they did play each other over at Peterborough way back in December, it was a 3-0 win for the Posh. However, Oxford, just 1 win in the last 6 against Peterborough. And they do come into this on the back of a 2-1 win over Exeter. Peterborough, of course, rocking that 3-3 draw against Bolton. Now, look at the odds for this game. This game alone, 5-4 is your Oxford, 2-1 is your Peterborough, 13-5 is the draw. And again, the odds for the distance, the whole hog here, Peterborough are 2-1, second faves. Oxford, third favourites with 4-1, of course. Why is that? Because Peterborough are familiar. This is familiar territory for Peterborough. They, of course, are a bit of a yo-yo club recently anyway, especially with Ferguson at the helm. But Oxford United, forever the bridesmaid. I remember them with Liam Manning a couple of times, competing for Carl Robinson as well. They're also flirting with the playoffs. So they've been here before. It's familiar territory. Is this the year that Oxford somehow hoodoo their way into the championship? Well, I don't know. The jury is out on that one. The form is good. Peterborough, of course, are, though, a wicked team and, of course, can beat anybody in this division up and down on any given day. They are, of course, a bag of tricks. We just don't know. And that's where I sit on this one. I just don't know which way to go. I'm going to go with a thriller, though. I'm going to go with a thriller at the Kazan. 2-2 in the end, which, of course, will mean all cards on the table when these two sides lock horns again for those second legs in Peterborough in a few days' time. So it looks like advantage Bolton. significantly. I would do, if I was a gambling man, I'd put them in the final, but I just don't know who will join them at the moment at this stage, because the Oxford game at the Kazam, if it is a blowout like it was in the season, 5-0, guess what? You could see we have a thriller on our hands, and those odds will change dramatically. Those are my early door picks right here, right now, for those playoffs. Of course, am I right? Am I wrong? We'll get into it, all of it, when we return. But until then, guys, that's the situation. But until then, we're done.